Today we're talking with Dionne Roberts, a fellow yoga teacher, and we're going to do a quick little interview. My first question, what led you to becoming a yoga teacher?
Oh, wow. I want to go from the middle or the end, but I guess there's always a backstory, isn't
There's
there?
always the backstory that's juicy. We want that. Yeah,
You want that?
I want the juicy backstory.
Want the backstory. Puns, puns upon puns. I damaged my spine in 3 places.
Oh my goodness.
I hurt my back. That's my backstory.
Oh, that's literally your backstory. Yeah. Okay, how'd that happen?
Well, I was doing my degree, my BA.
Uh-huh.
And it was in performing arts. So I was at a contemporary dance school.
Okay.
And I was doing what's called an adage. So I was standing on my left leg and I brought my right leg up. I took it out to the front and I took it out to the side in second. Then I took it all the back, jeté, my arms were in second, and my nose went all the way down to touch my toes while my leg at the back of me went up, and then my spine just cracked.
Oh, owie.
And there was three djembe players to the right of me.
Uh-huh.
Right. Drum, right? It's one of the loudest
So
natural
they can't
instruments
hear.
you get. Yeah, it vibrates, doesn't it? It vibrates and vibrates and vibrates.
Uh-huh.
So the dance school was on a main road. So we could always hear the djembe players in that, where the location of the school was. And all 3 of them just stopped. They just stopped playing because it was louder than them.
Oh my goodness. Oh no. So you basically probably couldn't walk for a few days, I'm guessing, after that.
Interestingly enough, as a dancer, you learn to push through it. As an athlete, you learn
Yeah.
to keep going.
Yes.
So,
We go through that a lot in the I was in the military, and that's kind of part of the conditioning is just keep pushing.
and I was living with somebody that was ex-forces. And I remember one day he said something about the training being so similar. In
Yes.
fact, he actually said it was worse. And
Yes.
he's like, "You're not even saving lives. What are you girls doing?
Right.
Stop."
Yes.
I was like,
Yes. Yes. I just had this conversation with my cousin's daughter. She hurt her knee running track, and she said that it was hurting her before it stopped, but she had to finish, and she had to finish. And she's in junior high school. She's very competitive, very athletic, beautiful girl. And I told her, I said, that's the only knee you're getting. Like, you're not getting, you're very young. You need those knees and you need to listen to your body. But from a very young age, that athletic conditioning starts really young. It's just like, just push through it because I've got to finish. And it's a mentality. And unfortunately, we don't realize how toxic it is until we hurt ourselves later on down the line.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had the back injury, and that happened shortly before or a long time before the yoga what other events kind of led you towards the yoga teacher world?
I kind of did a few classes before or during training as a dancer, and they didn't really call to me. I didn't really kind of go, yeah, this yoga's for me. I actually felt it was actually quite boring.
Okay.
Actually,
Okay.
like, oh my god, snooze fest. How boring is this shit? And you want, well, what? Yeah. People like this. I'm looking like, going, "What? Okay,
Yeah.
do the next one, do the next one." And I tried about 3 times. And
Okay.
at school as well, we had somebody come in and tried at
Mhm.
school, still like
Okay.
and that happened, my back happened, and, in the 2nd year of wellness,
Mhm.
getting better, trying to learn how to re-walk and all of that and get the pain down,
Mhm.
one of the gentlemen who I was living with said, "My friend has just come back from Canada, and she's teaching this new style of yoga called Ashtanga. I think you should go."
Hashtanga?
Yeah, yeah, we pronounce it 2 ways.
Oh, Ashtanga.
Ashtanga,
Oh,
Ashtanga.
okay, okay. I thought you were combining hatha and Ashtanga, so I was like,
No, no.
there's a new style? Where? Tell me, I wanna hear all about it, but okay, Ashtanga, okay,
Ashtanga, yeah. And,
okay. Very old style,
then
actually, not new, old.
well, back then it was,
New to you guys, though.
no, this was back in 1990. Oh, yeah, new to the Western world.
Yes, that's what I
Yeah,
meant. New to the West, not new to yoga
yeah,
itself. Okay,
exactly, exactly. So
okay.
this is in '97,
Oh, wow, okay,
and,
okay.
um, so I went along, and
Mhm.
and I was like, "I can't do this."
It's not
Because
boring at all. Ashtanga, the
yeah,
primary
exactly, it's not
not
boring
boring
at
at
all.
all.
I was disabled,
Yeah.
and Ashtanga, you gotta, like, jump through your feet and all of that, and I'm like
Yes.
so she got me a chair, and we put
Uh-huh.
the back of the chair to one side of the yoga mat, and then a second back of the chair to the other side of the yoga mat. So I would hold on to the chairs and then go down onto the floor,
Mhm.
down onto my knees, then onto
Mhm.
my belly, then back
Mhm.
up to my knees, then holding the chairs like walking sticks to get
Okay.
back up
Oh,
because
wow.
I was disabled.
Yeah, and that's a lot. There's a lot of vinyasas in Ashtanga. That's what I was traditionally trained in was Ashtanga
Yeah, there's
primary
4.
and secondary.
4A, 4B.
Yeah.
I would do the first class, I just did 1.
Yeah, and
Watched her, and then I did 1.
okay.
And then as I got better, I could do 1 of A and 1
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
salutes
Yeah.
to the sun, I mean. And
Uh-huh.
then and then I started to build upon that, but it was what I needed because my
Mhm.
mind could not be my mind felt that hatha yoga was too boring, too sleepy. So
Yes.
being that high energy, being that dancer, I
Uh-huh.
needed something that was kind of beyond where I was at, so
Yes.
so that I can work towards
Mhm.
getting to that direction, get into that line.
Mhm.
So my mind, that young mind at the time that was like that, needed that, and it worked. If it
Wow.
hadn't have been that high energy, if it hadn't have been that advanced,
Mhm.
I just found it boring and I wouldn't have gone back. So
Okay.
that sent me on that sent me on a journey of, "I like this.
I like this. What is
I'm
this?
yeah, I'm going back." And I went back the
Yes.
following week and the following week, and I kept going back, and
Beautiful. And then
yeah.
you were like, I've gotta dive deeper. This needs to go to teacher training.
No, I just practiced. I just practiced and
Oh,
practiced
okay.
and
Okay.
practiced. When I went traveling,
Mhm.
and, while I was traveling, this was around Southeast Asia,
Okay.
people would ask me to teach them, and I
Okay.
would teach her. So I was like, "Sorry, there's nothing I can do. You can copy me. We can work out together, but I'm
Okay.
I'm not a teacher."
Okay.
Then I went to a monastery
Mhm.
that held international meditation retreats in the South
Mhm.
Island,
Okay.
and they had what's called karma yoga.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, we did that at the ashram.
yeah.
Mhm,
So
and that's in the Bhagavad
everybody
Gita, so it's really important.
yeah, so you gotta sign up for a job and you gotta give to the
Yes.
community and,
Yes.
serve in that way.
Yes.
I wrote down so the list of jobs had yoga teacher on there. So
Mhm.
I wrote my name in the box, and then I put an arrow to a comment saying, only if somebody else joins me. I can't do it on my own because
Mhm.
then my mind's going, "I'm not a teacher. I don't know what to do."
Mhm.
So, the next morning, somebody else signed up the next morning. They gave us permission to talk while you teach because it was a silent 11 days, 10-day silent retreat.
Mhm.
And yeah, you two go teach the women yoga. And it was 74 women was my first class.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you have the old school uh style basically of just like just diving in there and knowing it and just being a part of it and just not being afraid to teach and just teach.
Yeah, because when I left the monastery, I went back to where we were kind of living at the time.
Mhm.
And I encourage people to come and see this monastery with me. So when
Uh-huh.
I went back the second time, I taught again, completely on my own, and it was sort of 60 something women.
Uh-huh.
And then I came back to the UK and I got off the plane, and within 4 days, I got a job teaching yoga. I said to the studio, "Do you want me to teach yoga?" And they
Okay.
yeah, so I contacted insurance companies and I
Mhm.
said, "I'm not trained, but I need insurance to teach this thing that I'm not trained in. Will you
Mhm.
insure me?" And they said, "Well, you're an ex-dancer, so yeah, as long as you promise to get the qualification as you're teaching."
Okay.
And that
Okay.
began.
So then you got certified eventually when like Yoga Alliance came out because Yoga Alliance is fairly recent, but you've been in the game for a while now. I mean, how long have you been practicing for? You said 97?
Yeah, yeah. See, I do worry about my qualifications because of all these new bodies. I
Yeah,
do. But I
yeah.
have
The
to go.
Yoga Alliance is new. Is fairly new compared. I don't think it's been around since the 90s. I think Yoga Alliance is much newer than that. But
I
yeah,
need to
so
contact them before my teacher dies. So my teacher's Brian Cooper, which is one of the pioneers of,
mhm,
of Ashtanga yoga. There was
okay.
5, and he was
Uh-huh.
one of them.
So he probably learned under Patabi Joyce, maybe? He was one of
I don't
Patabi
hear
Joyce's disciples or something like that. Because Patabi Joyce is kind of one of the ones known for bringing Ashtanga from India to the States. But I think there's one or two other ones who also were Ashtanga.
yeah, there was 4 men and 1 woman, as far as
Hmm. Yeah, and usually they came from like the umbrella of Patabi Joyce back in like I think the 60s or something like that.
yeah, and most of them were Iyengar teachers before
Iyengar, yeah.
Ashtanga, 'cause Brian was.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that leads me to another question. How long? So that kind of answered that one. Since 97, where did you? And you said you went to the monastery for training, and then what styles or areas of yoga are you drawn to the most? Not just asana, but Raja yoga, Bhakti yoga, Jnana yoga, Karma yoga. Like, what is your favorite outside of asana? What's your favorite part?
Kinda like a mashup of them all, really.
I mean, they all are beautiful. Yeah.
They
Usually we kind of naturally gravitate towards just like one is just comes easy. Like it just snaps and we don't even need to think about it. Oh, karma yoga? Pff, easy. I already do that.
but it changes, doesn't it?
It
So,
does
like,
evolve. It does evolve.
down the line,
Hmm.
the body doesn't want that, and the body doesn't need that, and the body
Hmm.
doesn't like that, or the body can't do that. And
Hmm.
as we age, especially as women, our bodies change, and
Absolutely.
and therefore, I've gone through and practiced many, many other styles since learning Ashtanga.
Hmm. Hmm.
Already a taste hatha, and then I went a bit more deeper into Vinyasa flow, deeper into Iyengar.
Hmm.
Um, started rebranding myself as Candlelit Yoga, and that was the
Hmm.
thing. And then it just became um, yoga for health is what I rebranded myself as.
Hmm.
It was yoga for health, Mysore style. That
Mhm.
and then now, 20 27 years later, it's yoga nidra.
Oh, okay. You like yoga nidra. Okay.
That's what I teach now.
We were taught a little bit of yoga nidra at the Shivananda ashram during Shavasana. They have a very specific way of getting people to relax in Shavasana without falling asleep, and they use yoga nidra. They use
Yeah.
a yoga nidra. They don't advertise, hey, this is yoga nidra. They just say, just do this, you know. But it's beautiful. It helps a lot. I know there's a lot of people who are working on sleep management. Got a good friend of mine, Susie, who's also trained in Ashtanga, who focuses on sleep management, and it's a beautiful thing. We don't put enough emphasis on the importance of proper rest. Okay, so have you experienced any changes that fellow teachers have made to yoga that you don't particularly agree with, and why? Or basically how the West has evolved yoga into like an industry, or for example, the focus on expensive yoga clothes, right? Those
Yeah.
changes to the yoga world that the West has made. Can you sort of describe any of those changes that you've seen that have happened over time that you think are detrimental to the practice?
Yeah, I think it's kind of losing its origin, whatever the origin is, because there is a huge debate between whether yoga actually did originate from India or whether it actually originated in Egypt.
Oh,
So
okay,
that's
I've heard that argument a couple times about the chakras, and because there's a lot of striking similarities.
between the hieroglyphics on the
Mhm.
pyramid walls,
Mhm.
the lifestyles in which we know Egyptians lived in that time.
Mhm.
Like in reference to they lived very closely down onto the floor, onto the ground,
Mhm.
and how they what the musculoskeletal system was like to be able
Mhm.
to exist that low down onto the floor, and
Mhm.
and the poses that they did to document their writing and communication, and also that which they viewed to that which they viewed as being high, that which that the postures they viewed to praise as being, high.
Okay.
So there is this so there is that debate going on,
Mhm.
and so whether but just looking at what's happening now in the industry, the money making industry of
Mm.
it, and kind of like the career aspect as well of becoming a yoga teacher,
Mm.
because that's become oversaturated as well. And then the treatment of yoga teachers in reference to the devaluing of
Yes.
of of the training that we do and the ongoing training that we do, and it's a
Mhm.
lifestyle, it's ongoing,
Yes.
and we are, constantly searching for truth and constantly bettering ourselves, and yet still the average wage of a yoga teacher goes nowhere near a price.
Livable. It's not even livable.
Yeah,
Most
it's not even doable.
not in the
So
West.
and yet still, what we do and our knowledge
Mhm.
of the human body and the knowledge of the mind
Mhm.
doesn't even, what we get financially as a reward doesn't even match our
Mhm.
actual knowledge
Mhm.
and what we give via our practice and heart.
Mhm.
So so many aspects, I guess, that I feel passionate about in reference to what it looks like now. And
Mhm.
you and I ourselves, how we've met by me looking for yoga teachers to have a regular discussion on Clubhouse
Mhm.
with the fashion industry and the yoga wear, and
Yes.
how sexualized the clothing for yoga has 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 become.
Mhm.
If you think back to its roots, it's there was no tight fitting clothing worn.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in the ashram, we're not even allowed to wear yoga pants. You have to
Yeah.
wear harem pants and you have to wear a t-shirt. And anytime you do any sort of inversion, everyone needs to tuck in their shirt into their clothes, and you're not allowed to wear any form-fitting anything. And they will say something to people who come into the ashram and say, you need to go change. Yeah, it's very strict at the Shivananda ashrams, and I appreciated it because that modesty helped us all focus on the class. For one,
Yeah.
that men aren't having to stare at a woman sexually, and for two, a woman doesn't have to feel uncomfortable in her skin. So it's not about covering up, and it's not about like she's oppressed. It's more along the lines of comfort. We're trying to create comfort for everybody with just a little bit of modesty. I know there's some brands like I think Lululemon does make one pair of harem pants, but they're smaller in size. They're still form fitting. They don't have anything for plus size bodies, and it's majority of it is geared towards women as well. And so I agree that the over sexualizing of the yoga fashion industry is very flawed, and
Oh,
unfortunately it's turned into that, but we are trying to discuss that, and we're bringing that up in that clubhouse meeting. So if anybody who's watching
wow.
this interview wants to join the clubhouse meeting, it's May 30th,
May 30th,
2021, May 30th, 2021 at
2 p.m. EST,
2
and that's 11 a.m. PST.
11 a.m. Yes. So that come join that discussion, because we're really excited about talking about that within the yoga community. It's a very 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 important issue that we're not putting enough emphasis on, but we're the consumers, so we create the demand, right? So we have the power, we have to take that power back.
Yeah. Yoga
Okay.
is for, it's not just for one body shape.
Right, exactly. And then this one kind of falls under what we're talking about. Have you noticed any cultural appropriation?
Well, that in itself, and it, there's the
Yeah.
fashion, the clothing.
Yep.
It takes yoga out from being the practice and more about the person.
Yes.
And as we said, it's sexualizing it.
Yes. Yes. There's also I brought this up in another yoga teacher interview. Is a lot of people will take the deities and they will turn them into room decor. They're not really,
Yeah, yeah,
that is a version. If people did that to, like, say, a cross,
yeah.
right, or Jesus on the cross, it would be, oh my gosh, blasphemy, like, right? But it's okay for us to do it with other religions and other cultures. No, if you're going to have this, you need to understand its origin, what it is, why it's there, what it means to us, and why it's important to yoga, or why it's important to the person who has the item, right?
And
We
in some cultures, it's also asked to not place them on as a tattoo onto the body
Okay.
as well.
Okay, that's the first time I've heard that, but I can see that because there's a lot of cultures who don't agree with tattoos at all,
Yeah.
right? Who say no tattoos, and here I'm covered in tattoos, so I can't really, like,
Yeah.
can't relate to that, but at the same time, like, I can appreciate what they're saying with that is you're putting a tattoo on your body of something that you really don't understand completely, and don't even work to understand it.
Mm.
So yeah, I agree with that. And then the whole idea behind just yoga in general, it's just turned into a form of fitness. It's not really turned into the spiritual practice, the creation of mind, body, spirit into one being. It's looked at it in the West, especially here in America. It's just something you do to exercise. But
Yeah, when I
that's
Ashtanga was definitely one of the first of that.
Right.
I mean, having speech about it in reference to it being taken to the Olympics.
Really? I have that's a first. That's not yoga. So, I understand that, we package yoga as the asana practice because that's kind of the only way to get Westerners to even try it, and once we try it and we realize there's more to this, I need to dive deeper into this, and we dive deep and we realize we've opened this huge can of worms. Great worms, tasty worms, like, we have opened up this beautiful experience all because we tried the asana practice. But unfortunately, there's people out there who become certified yoga teachers and they go to, and this is not on them, this is just they go to a yoga studio and all they do is teach asana. There's no pranayama, there's no talk of the yamas or the niyamas. There's nobody teaches what pratyahara means. There's barely any meditation, right? So they don't explain what samadhi is or om, or you're not
The
allowed to
other
here.
the
You're
other
not allowed to do the
oh,
open, like here. What was that?
the other limbs.
The other limbs, right, of Ashtanga. They only teach one. I tell people you're only teaching 1/8 of Raja Yoga. You're only teaching one of the eightfold system. Like what? Right? And a lot of it is just because of they don't really understand it, or there's a fear that if they teach it, people will not come back to the class.
Yeah, because
So
then it becomes something like a cult if it's not your religion. If it's not a religion that you're born into,
right.
then then it's easily viewed as
Miss Yeah.
or misconstrued as, that you are going to a cult because there's
Yes.
a spiritual element of
Yes.
something that you
Yes.
do not understand and that you wasn't born into. So
Right. Yeah,
there is
like the opening and closing.
there is that fear there.
Mhm. Yes, because I mean, a lot of people don't realize that you're supposed to say an opening prayer before you start your practice and then a closing prayer, and it's in Sanskrit, and people don't realize that it doesn't say anything about your religion, you need to convert into my religion. It has nothing to do with that, but because it's in a foreign language, people get really intimidated and turned off by it, and they think they're being converted into a cult. And really, it's just the teacher's just supposed to be setting the tone or the vibration for the class. And so that's something that happens, that tends to happen with cultural appropriation
Yeah.
in the West. And then the next question I have, what are some things that we can do as Western yoga teachers to prevent cultural appropriation?
One is take Sanskrit for instance. Having these things translated into a language that people understand, or whether it's a strict translation or taking the essence of something
Mhm.
and, making it into something that that person can understand, that class, that
Mhm.
community can understand, so that they can feel comfortable with it and at home with it, and
Mhm.
so that they can then do that thing coming from a pure place of their own heart and recognizing that it's not therefore going against their faith, and therefore that's something we can do. I don't It does sort of kind of beg the argument when it's that cultural appropriation or not, when you take something and make it your own. What do you
Sometimes it can be viewed, some people do view it as that. I've noticed it a lot with being a white person. They call us colonizers if we do that. If we take something and kind of repackage it and make it our own, but it still has the essence of the originality of what it was. But the more we move towards trying to translate it in a way that modern Western minds can understand, the more we get accused of being a colonizer, or the
oh,
more we get accused of being culturally appropriation.
let
Um,
me you there. If that's the case, then Buddha Shakyamuni himself was a big colonialist.
Yes.
Because Buddha Shakyamuni said, do not accept something just because I say.
Yes.
Look within yourself and investigate it.
Absolutely.
And when he sent his disciples off to teach, he said, teach Dharma
Mm-hmm.
in their language,
Mm-hmm.
not in
Right.
yours.
And the same could be said about Christian faith as well, because like Jesus himself was a Jewish rabbi according to
And,
historical fact, and he spoke Hebrew,
yeah.
right? And the Western, the English Bible was translated from actually several different languages. And so, yeah, we deal with that but it's typically an accusation, a pointing a finger, a blame of, right? And it's easy to point a finger of blame at somebody because they, like, instead of taking responsibility for our own selves and our own actions, it's so much easier to point the finger and say, well, you're appropriating my culture. I really hear this from a lot of other Westerners. I really don't hear this a lot. I have several friends, Indian friends, who live in India, and they have never once accused me of being doing cultural appropriation if I'm translating a word in Sanskrit to English, which we do all the time. We actually say things that have meaning in Sanskrit. We just don't understand the language yet. So that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because if that were true, then every religion would be considered cultural appropriation. Yeah. I love that you brought that up. That's beautiful. Some of the things that I have been talking about is when I teach yoga, I'm not just teaching asana. So me saying I'm teaching a meditation class, you're actually teaching a yoga class. Does that make sense? Because it falls under the umbrella of
Yeah,
Ashtanga.
one of the limbs.
It's
Yeah.
one of the limbs. So if you're teaching meditation, whether you're certified or not, you are a yoga teacher. You might be unconscious of the fact that you're a yoga teacher, but you're teaching yoga. If you're teaching somebody nonviolence, if you're teaching somebody ahimsa or your children ahimsa, you are in essence a yoga teacher already, because you're teaching one of the first yamas. And so bringing that up to people when I'm teaching things like Ayurvedic nutrition, that's a karma yoga kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm teaching just by talking to somebody. I'm teaching.
Do you know
So,
why this is?
huh?
Why that controversy is there? It's because people don't understand what the word means.
Right.
You say yoga without. It's like saying to a child, "Be patient." Yeah, we do
Yes.
like that. And when the child's like, "What the hell is that? What I'm
Yeah. What
supposed
does
to
that? What does
please stand
patience
still?"
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and this is it. It's the same with the word yoga. We don't know what the word actual means. We just
Mm-hmm.
say the word. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, by you saying that, somebody's going to be watching this going, I'm not a yoga teacher just because I taught meditation. And it's because we need to always come back to the root. What does the word mean?
Yes.
And the word means union.
Yes.
It means unity.
Yes.
And that union is actually the unity between your body and your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're bringing both of them to a point of join, to a
Mm-hmm.
point of meeting, to a point of melting, to a point of them being synonymous,
Mm-hmm.
that then you are then doing yoga,
Yes.
moving yoga, guiding yoga, teaching yoga.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's beautiful. I love it. And then how can we as yoga teachers help make yoga more accessible to everyone?
Without cultural appropriation.
Sort of. So what I'm noticing is a trend in particularly in America, in the States is it's turning into a fad, a trend for middle class women. Middle class, particularly middle class white women, but and that's where the problem I see a lot of the problem with the yoga clothes is, right? But one of the problems is that it's not available, it's not accessible to everyone, which is what true yoga is meant to be accessible. But in order to take a yoga class, you have to have a lot of money to have a yoga studio membership.
Right.
So studio memberships range from $70 to $100 a month. But for somebody who's a single,
Wow.
well, yeah, it's very expensive. And then they go and have the audacity to give the yoga teacher only like $12 or $15 a class.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I'm not talking about, there's nonprofits out there that I get that. But there's the for profit yoga studios who do that a lot. And $15 for an hour class is actually 2 hours worth of work because you have to show up early. You have to set up the class. You have to sequence the class because, God forbid, if you do the same class over and over again, which you're supposed to do. So you have to create a whole new sequence every time. So that takes time. You have to show up early, set up, teach the class, stay behind, talk to your students, clean up. So that's at least 2 hours worth of work, and
Getting
they're only
paid
giving
for them.
you're only getting paid for one of those hours. And with the cost of living, even where I live in a very inexpensive area. I live in Idaho. Even then, I could not afford to pay my bills on that. And the excuse I've heard is, well, this isn't somebody's primary income for most of the teachers here. This is just for fun. This is just for fun. And I'm like,
Oh,
this is a lifestyle.
it
This is
is, and the thing is
lifestyle.
that it's got an age limit on it as well.
Right.
Because when you're teaching yoga, we are going asana yoga. This is
Yes.
we're going beyond our own bodily needs,
Hmm.
and therefore things like burnout happens to yoga teachers
Yes. Yes,
because
that's happened to
they're only
me.
able to practice once a day.
Hmm.
And if you're teaching 4 classes a day, you are over exercising.
Yes.
Yeah. I got my first burnout back in, as I said, I came back, started teaching in the year 2000.
Hmm.
Uh, was that my first trip? Yeah, started teaching in the year 2000. I was burnt out by 2003 that I had
Hmm.
the country and go on another trip because I was burnt out from
Hmm.
teaching yoga for 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and that is because I did this test, and the test proves that I was over exercising. I
Hmm.
was over activity,
Overexerting.
over my steps per day. I was over everything.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yes.
therefore, when you get to a point like that, we then have to then reteach. We have to relearn something. We have to relearn in a therapeutic modality. We have to
Hmm.
learn another form of yoga that our health needs at that time.
Hmm.
So we need this. We need to be paid more so that we can actually do the next training that we
Hmm.
need to do to get better and well, and then go out and work again.
Yes.
So yeah, I can't believe those prices. And it's not that those prices are that much different from the UK, but it is more, what you just said,
Uh-huh.
which then makes it not not viable for somebody who's not at that income, someone who's not working in a huge corporation and earn
Right.
that kind of money.
Right.
So what I would advise is what you and I are both trying to do is like grow our YouTube channels. I would advise that you find a bunch, I would say no more than 3. Start with 1. Or
Hmm.
start with 3 and then go down to 1 because you've gotta,
Hmm.
like, look around to find somebody who kinda speaks to your heart,
Hmm.
on YouTube, and then invest in them. You pay
Right.
them when you can.
Hmm.
Um, but, it's important that people don't know the power of subscribing on YouTube.
Right. I was just gonna say that.
You need to subscribe and you need to click the
Subscribe.
bell.
Yeah.
And the reason why is that after a period of time, as our subscribe numbers go up, we actually get paid. We actually are then allowed to monetize that channel and
Mhm.
get paid. But
Yes.
for the hundreds of hours that we put in before we get to that subscribe number so that we can actually begin to monetize our channel,
Mhm.
that is what we need people to do. We need people to subscribe so that we can get to that point.
Yes.
Now, I know what people are thinking because, I have it, you have it, we all have it. It's like notifications. I don't want
Mhm.
to be notified. I don't want my phone going off when I'm trying to sleep, this, that, and the other.
Mhm.
Why, you just switchly make that notification silent. You go
Right.
to settings on your phone. I mean, I've subscribed to loads of channel. I've never been pinged by YouTube.
Mhm.
Never, ever, 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 ever.
Yeah.
They automatically have their settings to silent.
Right. And you just once you go into the app, then you'll see the notifications within the app.
Yeah, if you want to. If
Yeah.
somehow you've got a different phone that doesn't make YouTube make your notification silent, then you go to your settings,
Mhm.
find YouTube, keep the notifications on, just press silent so it only comes up as a banner across your phone. But
Mhm.
it's down. But I've
Yeah.
never heard my phone get pinged by
Right.
a notification from
Right.
YouTube. They don't do that.
YouTube is that's definitely a great way for us to make it more accessible to everybody. But then, so what tends to happen is some people will get overwhelmed because there's such a plethora of information out there in YouTube. So one thing that I'm trying to do with D-Rock Wellness personally is turn basic beginner yoga into like an e-course or an app for and it's very affordable and easy and easily accessible to everybody because unfortunately if you say you do find that yoga studio and you sign up for that yoga class, what tends to happen is beginners get turned off by the class itself because it's teaching at such a very advanced rate and people don't understand that all you really truly need is Surya Namaskara for asana practice. You don't need all these fancy poses in the beginning. Those are fun. They're
Yeah.
nice to do and they're great to open areas of energy blockages and tightness and muscular tightness. Those are great. But to
Yeah.
practice traditional yogis every day would just practice pranayama, Surya Namaskara, and meditation. They don't.
You want to just like briefly describe what Surya Namaskara is
So
to
in
somebody?
Surya, yes, thank you for bringing that. Surya Namaskara is sun salutations. So basically the beginning of a yoga class, typically a yoga asana class, typically will start with the Surya Namaskaras, the sun salutations, and it's a very set sequence of movements, and they change based off of the lineage that that teacher is coming from. So there's Hatha Yoga, so their Surya Namaskara is a bit different. And then in Ashtanga, there's A and B, right? And so ultimately, people aren't getting enough of a breakdown of that basic set of postures that can be so beneficial. Why not teach just those to people and break those down as a beginner course so that if they do go to a yoga studio or a gym, they're not so intimidated by the rest of the class because once you perfect sun salutations or Surya Namaskar, once you perfect those, then the other postures kind of come naturally almost sometimes for people. For people
Can
who
I add,
aren't, go ahead.
can I add two things to that?
Sure, yes, please.
So like I like this is an old way of when I always had to explain what it is. So one will breathe in, and in that in breath you're moving from A to B, and then you breathe out and then move from B to C, and then you breathe in and move from C to D, breathe out and move from D to E, and then breathe in, E to F, and that's
Mhm.
how you, because your finger was going like this, I just wanted to sort of like explain that is what somebody is doing in that sequence of that flow.
Mhm.
And another thing is that I always say that there is, just make it more accessible, there is a yoga for everybody. So
Yes.
just how I had to find my journey to the point that I found Ashtanga and went, yeah, this is for me, which
Mhm.
now I completely dislike Ashtanga and I don't go anywhere near it.
Yeah, the sequence
But
is a bit tough sometimes, yeah.
because the body changes and I have
Yes,
it. So in that same breath is that there is a style of yoga for everybody. And
absolutely.
it's just finding the style,
Mhm.
which might sound like they have like really funny names, but it's finding the right style for you.
Right.
You are a high intense energy and you've got a short attention span, then
Mhm.
a practice that is dynamic is
Mhm.
you. If
Right.
you're a person, you would actually explain this really well in reference to the Vita and the Pitta
I
and the
was
cat.
just gonna bring up Ayurveda. My intention
Yeah,
was to turn
you-
because of the different Surya Namaskars, was to turn each one of them into Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Do
yeah,
this if you're a Pitta person. If you're feeling Kapha, if you're feeling Vata, because they're those different Surya Namaskaras are for those different. So like B, Surya Namaskar B in Ashtanga, that's really good for somebody who has a Kapha body style or somebody who's feeling Kapha in their mind body. Pitta would be A, right? And for like the Shivananda's Surya Namaskar, the Hatha version, that would be something for Vata because it's very slow and
awesome,
mellow, right?
awesome.
And so, yeah, I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring up the fact that I will be teaching Ayurveda with that
So
to
like
tell
me
people that
now,
it,
moving totally away from something that was that dynamic because I was of that age,
mhm,
I only practice yin yoga and I
I,
only practice
I love it.
restorative yoga
Right.
and nidra yoga, sleep yoga. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the three yogas I practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I practice those because of energy being low, injuries, menopause,
Mm-hmm.
uh, all these different bodily changes that are going on that makes me yield into needing and wanting to slow down and nourish and fill my cup up. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the type of styles of yoga that do that. So yeah,
Yes.
there is always a yoga for somebody meeting you where you're at. And if you just get a breakdown description of all the different schools of yoga, all the different styles of yoga, I say schools, I meant styles of yoga, you'll
Mm-hmm.
be able to find one that is just perfect for you.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And then my last question, has yoga changed your life and in what way?
Yeah, I mean, it got me from being dis- from being disabled, not being able to leap through the air anymore, to being able to stand on my head. Uh, it's enabled me to travel the world and get a job and teach wherever I go. It's enabled me to heal and as well as give back to people. It's so a part of me now. I wouldn't know anything else besides what I do now. It's been within my array of gifts for over 25 years.
Yes. Beautiful. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Dionne, you've been amazing. This interview was really great. I can't wait to share it with the world. For those of you who are watching, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell button to help us out, and we'll be seeing you again really soon.